I'll kick it over to Jeff for this next part.
Jeff?
Jeff, are you there?
All right.
I think...
Hey, Jeff. I think you're on mute.
So, welcome to another episode of You're on Mute. My name is David Hosenstab. I am a digital workspace specialist here at CompuNet, responsible for all things related to cloud communications, unified communications, contact center, customer experience, and everything in between. And with me today is Tim Channing. So, Tim, would you mind introducing yourself, sir?
Pleasure. Tim Channing here. I am the Senior Channel Manager for the Pacific Northwest. But more importantly, I am the Senior Channel Manager for my relationship with CompuNet. So I support everything CompuNet related, from voice to POTS replacement to pretty much anything that we're going to talk about today.
There you go. Yeah, you go. You are our Fusion Connect spirit animal.
I am.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and I think, today the opportunity to sit down with you, and we talked a little bit about this, but we both have had a lot of experience in, particularly in the Microsoft ecosystem around cloud communications, voice services, collaboration, and I always felt that Teams calling services, especially even back to Skype for Business, but It has always been viewed somewhat. You could argue it's been viewed as kind of a utility. Calling services. It's the telco. It's Microsoft's version of it. But I just feel like still today there is room for conversation and evolution in how we work with customers, so that utility is actually. Customers realize that this utility is actually a catalyst for your innovation, efforts, your enhancements that, might seem like a pie in the sky, but it's like actually, this is the groundwork, and you can almost incorporate some of that into this investment strategy instead of it being, silo conversation around voice enabling Teams and then onto another project. It's like, well, what if there was more to it than that? But I mean, have you seen it the same way? What have your experiences been? Because we're just one fish in the pond compared to what you see in each and every day. So
I mean, I think if you look back at voice in general, I mean it's evolved so much over the years, right? You had the involvement of SIP and then SIP trunking, then you had Skype for Business, and then you had hosted voice, right? And if you've looked at the evolution of voice, in one way or another, it's always been a utility, right? Like, What was the word that you said it was? It was...
I just ramble. I don't know.
Basically, it's just a commodity in a sense, right?
Okay.
That's what a lot of people look at voice.
Yep.
Voice is a commodity.
Yep.
You need it. It's vital to your business. But with the evolution, I think, of voice that we see it today, especially with Teams is allowing us to transition that voice into what I call a digital asset. Mm-hmm. Most organizations have made this investment into Microsoft, whether it was just applications, it was AI, it was other key portions of their business. So when we talk about Teams voice, I now look at that as a digital asset. It's now going to empower their business. It makes it easier for them to communicate. It makes it easier for them to now get a return on that investment. Single pane of glass, right? I mean, That's what we're hearing in the industry today across all platforms, right? Is how do we just simplify everything down? Mm-hmm. I think that's really what it's coming down to.
When you look at Operator Connect, because we've seen the evolution of how Microsoft has brought voice services, PSTN connectivity into their environment. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Operator Connect is kind of that? Well, in terms of I'd love to hear your explanation of Operator Connect, and then if you feel like, are we at a point now? Are we at the threshold? Like, did they plateau? Is this like where efficiency, is going to live in this area, or do you think there's still more that Microsoft can do with partners like yourself with that product?
I'm going to answer the second part of the question first. Has it plateaued?
How dare you?
I know. Or is it going to continue to grow?
Yeah.
I think what you saw or have seen so far in 2025 is you've seen it kind of hit this steady plateau. Mm-hmm. right around, I think, 7.5 to 10% growth so far in 2025, give or take. And what I think you're seeing right now is businesses are finalizing kind of what does their 2026 plans look like. What are some of the new features that they want to implement into their business? Mm-hmm. And I think CompuNet is seeing this already with some of their AI capabilities, other voice add-on capabilities, things like that. How can they enrich their business? So I think that plateau that you're seeing right now is just a business strategy for them to do future planning. Mm-hmm. So I do see that it's going to see a nice uptick in 2026. I think you'll see a really big uptick in 2026, I believe.
Interesting. So you think it's kind of the uptick is a kind of the byproduct of kind of the focus and how they're adjusting their initiatives and their the process around making those decisions and investing in these products a little bit differently. Do you see that and I look at some of this as like Operator Connect to me is enabling the asset means we're I don't want to say disabling, but we need to downplay the administrative overhead of voice within the environment to an extent, right? Just the day-to-day administration that might have been a full-time job, if you will, right? And do you feel that Operator Connect, Microsoft, and the admin experience with a product like Fusion Connect's Teams calling, mm-hmm. Are they at a pretty good spot, or is there still room for improvement to kind of streamline that administration for customers?
It's only going to get streamlined.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, what is Operator Connect? So Operator Connect, obviously you brought it up at the beginning, is that evolution between Skype for Business, then it became direct routing, and then direct routing evolved into simplifying that into Operator Connect.
Right.
So the concept is how can we eliminate the need for, having to do PowerShell scripting and need to have that subject matter expert there that can do all of that legwork, right? And simplify that down. Mm-hmm. Microsoft created that Operator Connect program that allowed companies like Fusion Connect to go in and deliver everything natively right through Azure, right directly into Teams. So what you're now seeing is that's been in play now for the last 2 years. And that ecosystem has just blown up. You have hundreds of different vendors. Now some of them are onesie-twosie locations. Some of them are one country or two countries. Today Fusion Connect sits top 3 with Microsoft on a global scale. Mm-hmm. But what you're now seeing is in that Teams admin center, it only continues to get easier and becomes richer to saying, hey, I can administer this type of auto attendant. I can administer this type of call flow. Mm-hmm. I can now administer these types of callback features. The concept is how can we start to make this more feature rich? Mm-hmm. And you're seeing that. Everything that Microsoft is doing is empowering the users to do more and more and more. They did that when they released Microsoft Queues, the Queues app.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Contact Center Lite. Right? So the concept is not to ever replace a full-blooded contact center solution. But for small businesses that, want to have that contact center feel, mm-hmm. the analytical information behind it, the coaching capabilities, Microsoft was genius with that, right? Queues app, all it requires is a Teams premium license. So you're only seeing that industry and that investment from Microsoft get heavier and heavier and heavier. Their biggest investment right now, Copilot.
Right.
I mean, that is going to be, I think, their number one product in 2026. And so you now take Copilot's capabilities, add that into what you're doing from a voice standpoint, and now you've just got this incredible voice platform.
Right. I agree, and I also think that some of it just because I'm spending so much time with customers around their customer experience, like how they're interacting with their customer base, and they have, like many of them, significant investments in Microsoft, 365 and Azure, all of these productivity tools. But I feel that Copilot is is powerful and it's the focus. Sometimes my concern, to be quite honest, is like
Too much.
Well, Microsoft has a CX experience across multiple products that if other would they say competitors have put together, right? And with Microsoft, there needs to be time, and I guess what it is time. My concern with customers is how much time can we get to talk about enabling a digital asset, or what we really want to do with this product. And I think that hearing from you just how streamlined, how efficiently we can work together to deliver those voice services, those essential voice services that it's like it's a start stop kind of situation, right? To start the process through there, but then so that I have more time to evaluate the Teams Q's app, Dynamics Contact Center, Power Platform, Copilot, all of these things, all of these avenues that are available to customers, but we need to navigate them to put together a really compelling CX experience, or at least translate what they're trying to do before they go off and candidly make additional investments around this, and it makes it more complicated. And I think that also sometimes, we were talking about Teams adoption, I think that kind of impacts adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think that's where you kind of start. We had to start by slightly changing the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
When Operator Connect first came out, Fusion Connect, we spent 12 months creating our message, creating our story, creating the value around Operator Connect, building trust, not only just within the customer's portfolio, but within the partner community as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we started working with CompuNet and CompuNet Trusted Fusion Connect, it's always been this trusted partnership. What are we looking to accomplish together? How can we help each other? And then it's the conversations that we're having with customers. Okay, what is your business narrative? What are you trying to accomplish? What are the key items? And so the customers that we've worked with, not only within CompuNet, but the customers that we've worked with on a global scale, those that have understood this is the power that Operator Connect can bring to the table, have automatically said, this is exactly what we're looking for. Not only just from a product standpoint, but from a solution standpoint, from a managerial standpoint, the easeability of being able to control a global solution,
Right.
just from a single Teams admin center. It made all the difference in the world. And then, at the end of the day, it is a very fiscally efficient solution. That's what it's designed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So you've made that investment into Microsoft. You've got, your business premium, business standard. You've got your E3 licensing. You've got your E5 licensing. Once you understand that portfolio, then you could now start having the additional conversations. How do we enrich that?
Mm-hmm.
That's where that digital asset conversation comes into play. So we've spent the last couple of years changing that narrative and that conversation, saying, okay, hey, you've looked at voice as an outside application. You've either used a third-party, UCaaS platform, or you're using something else. Now let's bring that all under the same single pane of glass, the same solution that you're already using for your 90% of your communication today.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing, is how do you communicate internally today?
Right.
Same conversation I have with CompuNet. How do you communicate with today? Everybody uses Teams, right? That's your number one form of communication. Great. Now we're going to enrich that.
Right.
That right there has always been what's so dynamic about the Teams voice conversation.
Yeah, and I think sometimes from my own experiences, you and this is where, when I think about like Operator Connect, you're never going to be able to understand this if you just go into your admin center and you choose an Operator Connect partner. And it's impossible to just simply transact that now in terms of how important Teams is to that overall story without working with someone who has a vested interest. As like, yes, yeah, we will provide you those services, but we will engage with you around what you're trying to achieve, not just check a box and here are your numbers.
Yeah.
So
I've never been the one that believes like throw something against a wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
Right. That's not the methodology that's going to work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And working with CompuNet these last few years, that's what makes you guys so unique.
Oh.
Right. I mean,
we're special.
Yeah, you're very special. But I mean,
I won't read into that.
I mean, come on, you guys are 150 plus engineers. I mean, the clients that I've sat down with, just the business conversation, your acumen towards the detail, that is what makes you unique. And so it's always been that consultative approach. When you take that consultative approach and tie it into what are you trying to accomplish, that's where everything comes together.
Gotcha.
Right? That's where also Fusion Connect is unique is, yes, in the channel, in what we do, there are always going to be a scenario where it's like, hey, what's this look like from an overall pricing standpoint? 100%. There's no denying that is going to happen. But what we want to try and do is always make sure that we capture the big picture. What are you trying to accomplish? So that when I do put together my solution and my design, it's actually tied to what CompuNet's also trying to accomplish for that business as well.
Right.
That's where that consultative approach comes into play. It's not just me and the customer, but it's also me with CompuNet, because you guys also have projects and tied with that as well.
Yeah.
So I want to enrich what you're trying to do as well. But like I said, I think that's why you saw that slight slowdown in 2025.
Yeah.
So many people are identifying what was key for my 2025 projects.
Yeah.
And then what does 2026 look like? And I think 2026 is going to be a really big year. A lot of companies, a lot of organizations, and things like that have saying, okay, hey, this is the route that we want to go. And a lot of hardware too. I mean, we haven't talked about that yet either.
Yeah.
But so much hardware, end of life, end of support. That changes the narrative a ton. I mean, most companies today are just not replacing physical equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're looking from a CapEx to an OpEx scenario, I would tell you that at least 90% of organizations are just going away from physical equipment. So that also changes the narrative quite a bit. That's where Teams plays a really big factor.
What do you consider the biggest sticklers in kind of modernizing around Operator Connect and just modern Fusion Connect calling services from customers who are still managing a lot of this on premise with local telcos and some of those legacy approaches to connectivity to devices? I mean, to me it's always been a chore, and it's always like I try to set the stage of like, hey, at some point we got to go through this site by site. We got to pull this apart a little bit, or else we're going to have disruption to your vision that you really don't want, right? We have to get through this efficiently. What do you think is the responsibility of folks like us, like Fusion Connect, and the customer in getting through that process?
So the only constant in our industry is change, right? Like there's no doubting that. My hope is that when we're in those scenarios, that the customer has a sense of vision. That's always the trickiest part, is sometimes we can have these conversations of saying, hey, have you thought about transitioning from on-prem to Operator Connect? Have you thought about what that transition looks like? Sometimes it's just a pricing exercise. And then sometimes they've never thought about it. Somebody brought up the conversation, and so they lack that vision.
Right.
And so the concept is that in that moment, in that time that I've got with them, I have to build that vision real fast. But a lot of it is that those that are on those legacy platforms, and the reason they like it, right, has always been that the same thing that you've heard for many, many years. I can touch it, I can see it, I can feel it, I can manage it. It's right there. Like if something breaks, like a phone breaks, I can go on eBay and replace it, or I can go somewhere and replace it. It's been that same statement for the last 15 years. So when I'm having the conversation around Operator Connect, the biggest conversation and thing that I can share with them is you lose no functionality, you lose no support, because you get to control everything from your team's admin center. I think that right there, when I'm talking with an IT director or a CTO or anybody that actually has to manage these systems, is when we talk Operator Connect, for instance, all of it is managed out of their own team's admin center. So the same way that they manage all their own Microsoft licensing today, that's how they're going to manage their voice today. So that automatically becomes relatable to a CTO.
Right.
So when I say that, he's like, oh, okay, that's how he now garners that vision from that statement. And so then it becomes now the conversation around hardware, right? We talked about that. Is we need to understand, what does that landscape look like? Are you wanting to replace hardware, not replace hardware? That conversation becomes really dynamic these days. Like I said, I would tell you that 90% of all of our opportunities, we're not replacing hardware. It's being just, put aside, and they're going soft clients.
Right.
And that is not just one particular industry. I will tell you that is pretty much multi-industry, whether it's healthcare, if it's, law offices, professional services, industrial businesses, they're all just getting rid of equipment. It is, a CapEx, expenditure that they don't want to maintain or manage any longer. So that's one key aspect to your conversation. Now, POTS is a completely other side of all of this, right? So the FCC has made significant changes in requiring telcos to get rid of their legacy landlines. So you've seen two key things happen in that side. One,
So are they just real quick? Are they saying get rid of? Or are they just not? Are they deregulating it?
they're deregulating it.
Okay.
And in some cases, you have some carriers that are just saying, we're no longer going to support these, or we're going to be shutting these off. Like,
Gotcha.
there are plenty of actual telcos that are just basically telling them, you have till this time frame to get off of this legacy service. We're no longer going to be supporting it.
Right. And just for the sake of anyone who might be enjoying our podcast later, a POTS line, a plain old telephone line, copper, connects to the elevator phone. Sometimes it connects to your fax machine, your door, your door intercoms, your paging systems. Those are, and those are to me like, I'm just gonna say like, because I have heard it coined by organizations I work with, like the ankle biters. Like, these are the ankle biters to the vision that I have to, and I think that the idea of POTS replacement service alleviates, because we do have a lot of customers in regions where it has taken a while for cloud connectivity, the belief in the reliability of it, to really to get to a comfortable state of consideration. And I think POTS is it's like one of those things like, oh, that has to work. And I'll let you talk a little bit about it, but I feel like how you've basically recreated that, with the something that you can see and touch, but also the built-in redundancy into that, I think is kind of where the secret sauce of we can finally find some parity here and maintain this and modernize it at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously, the biggest thing when we think POTS is, most of the time we're displacing elevator alarms, alarm lines, emergency lines, things like that. Things that in an emergency scenario you want to know are up and running.
Right.
They're mission critical. We'll call it as that. And then obviously you've got your fax lines, your other other lines.
There's more options.
There's
for
definitely
those,
more options
for, sure.
for those, but we support those 100% with this solution too. But Infusion Connect obviously wanted to make sure that we were as dynamic as we possibly could. So not only do we have a best-in-class hardware, but it's our approach to it. We have two separate, deployment strategies. We'll do, an on-site site survey. We'll spend 2.5 hours for an on-site site survey, identifying all the lines, making sure the network's set up, making sure we understand where everything is at, doing that thing appropriately. Then it's a 2.5 hour on-site installation. These are two separate scenarios.
Yeah.
This ensures the highest success for the implementation. And then our box itself has a battery backup built into it. So we meet NAFTA 72 standards. So, meets all the required needs up for battery backup. It has a full LTE failover built into it that's built on an eSIM. So I can choose between multiple carriers. In the event, like say, for instance, I can't use AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon, which are already part of my eSIM. If I need to be dynamic and choose like a different carrier, I have the capability of saying, okay, hey, I'm going to go and choose like a Cricket Wireless or somebody else that might have a signal in this region. We have those capabilities of kind of picking and choosing. But we use the big three, obviously. That's just dynamically built into this device. So that is how we deploy this, and it's that on-site approach that really makes it quite unique. And so that's just how we've always gone about it since we rolled this out. We tried a different device, let's be honest. It didn't meet our standards. So this new device that we've had now for the last year is just phenomenal. You've actually seen other carriers now implementing this device because it is the best in class.
Live and learn. That's tech.
Yep,
That's
that
just
is
the way it goes.
100%.
We're all in the same. We're all in the same boat. For me, we didn't have someone to say, "Hey, I'll go out and do a site survey." We have actually invested in the approach to help get through this because the customer, it's challenging for everyone. So let's address that gap, and that's huge. And then the last piece to me is support. And I'm curious, just when you think about supporting Operator Connect partners like CompuNet, but also customers, I mean, where do you think support differentiation is with providers?
First things first is being US based. So everything that we do from a support standpoint is all 100% US based support. So
that was a pretty big strategic kind of decision that you guys made there.
100%.
I mean, yeah.
So a lot, there's no denying in our industry, you have offshore support, and there's tremendous financial benefits to doing that. We all know that in our industry, but Fusion Connect has made a significant investment to ensure that all of our support is 100% US based. We want our clients to know that when they're calling us, it's local and they're going to get what they need. So, and our ability to be able to not only understand the client's environment, so all of our support team from tier 2 through tier 3 are all, dynamic and understanding, how to help them make, changes into their tenant if they're having issues, understanding if there's call flow scenarios that they're having issues, or, heck, I just had a client that's located in Germany, and she's like, I can't dial out. We troubleshooted it for 2 days only to find out that it had nothing to do with Fusion Connect, but she was actually adding an additional digit when she was dialing out. So it was user error, which these things happen, right? Yeah. But it's just our willingness to jump in. But on top of all of that, it's also my executive team's, willingness. You look at like Rod and Sharma and some of my executive leadership team that really take the, a customer's initiative. So willing to go and meet with customers, willingness to sit down with CompuNet, for instance, willing to just be involved in every single level of this plays a big, big factor. And in the event that they need to get involved in supporting our clients, they're there 100%. Yeah. That's just core to who we are as an organization. And you see that in the way that we support our clients.
Yeah.
That's big for us.
No, I think, there's a lot of just, organic alignment between our organizations and just kind of how we look at customers and how you put your money where your mouth is, candidly, with what you think is the best approach. And it's not always easy, especially with kind of the state of technology and hiring and attrition and all of those fun topics. So I really appreciate it. I think this has been a nice opportunity to kind of sit down and talk shop with you, in terms of just all of the ways that I don't think always are seen, discussed, or evaluated when customers look at enabling teams, calling services, and really what that actually could mean for their organization versus what it is at face value. So I really appreciate your time, Tim. This was fun, man.
Yes, an absolute pleasure. I appreciate it. I appreciate the partnership and the relationship that we all share. I mean, that's what makes what we do fun and exciting. I mean, I love what I do.
I'd high five you, but there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the way. So
I'm just going to break something. So good talking to you, bud.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to thank you for tuning in to this episode of You're on Mute, as well as all of the episodes that we have provided. And I wanted to say that if there are any topics that you are interested in, the CompuNet team has quite a few folks that love to talk shop, and we would love to hear from you on what might be of interest, top of mind for you. So if you could, leave a comment. And we'll hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks.